Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another CIQ webcast. This week, we're going to try to do something a little bit different. We've actually titled this one a brown bag webinar. So what we want to do is talk about some of the things that we're hearing from our customers, some of the things that we're hearing from the community, and then just some of the things that we've been working on personally or even for CIQ. So today I have Michael Young, and I believe Robert Adolph is with us as well. There he is. So welcome, Michael. It's been a while since you've been on. Mind introducing yourself and kind of tell us what you do at CIQ and with Rocky?
Yep, I'm a Linux software engineer here at CIQ, and so help out a lot as far as fielding questions that we receive on how to run applications or whether this or that works on Rocky, as well as hanging out in the community forums and helping there as well.
Thank you. Robert, I think you've been on here a lot. Everybody should know who you are, but if they don't, you mind telling us who you are?
Yeah, definitely. Name's Robert. I'm our Chief Product Officer, and grateful Michael could join us today and yourself today.
Absolutely. And Robert's very active in testing kernels and playing around with Rocky Linux. So it's always fun to get his take on things. So one of the things that I've been hearing a lot lately, Michael, is people talking about Kubernetes on Rocky. Obviously, Kubernetes is not new, but it's something that maybe people who are just getting into the Rocky community are starting to deploy Kubernetes on Rocky in their environments. And it's something that I'm running across a lot. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yes. Obviously, a lot of people are asking, hey, can I run this on Rocky Kubernetes? How well does it perform on Rocky? So yes, we've been getting a lot of questions in that regards.
So one of the things that I really noticed is, especially with a chip shortage and people not wanting to spend a bunch of money, but they want to learn, they want to go play with Kubernetes, they want to build it out. So I know the cloud is always going to be an option. Being able to go up, spin up some Rocky instances, deploy some things in the cloud is a great way to go. Some people want to get a little bit more involved and actually understand, maybe even learn something new. So one of the things I've actually been seeing, and I had a friend of mine's son ask me, I want to learn something new and I'm trying to get into IT. What should I do? Started talking about Rocky, obviously, go learn Rocky Linux. And he started asking about Kubernetes. Well, I want to build a Kubernetes cluster. How do I get started? So one of the things that I remember probably the last 2 or 3 years, especially pre-pandemic, everybody was building out Linux clusters on Raspberry Pi, deploying Kubernetes clusters. It was a really cheap, easy way to go play. But now that it's really hard to find a Raspberry Pi, especially if you're looking for an 8 gig model. And I've seen people paying $750, $800 for one, which is, I mean, you can go buy a laptop and do the same thing.
Yeah.
But for people who have one, that seems to be the problem. They have one. And what I've been running across lately is people building out something like this. So you actually take one of those 8 gig Pis and attach an SSD, and you can actually install VMware ESXi on this thing now. So you can run a full-blown ESXi cluster and install Rocky Linux on it and actually have multi-nodes. So you have an entire multi-node Kubernetes cluster on a Raspberry Pi, which is something that I've started obviously building out. That's why it looks like this today. I've started down that road to go play with it and see if I can get it to work. And it's been really interesting to try to get that type of thing running. Obviously, it's never going to be a great performer. It's not really what it's intended for, but it's a great place to learn. And one of the other questions that I've been getting is, okay, well, I've got VMware installed on it. I've got some Rocky boxes. Now what? So one of the things I've also started noticing and looking around for is there's a bunch of Ansible playbooks out there to go do this for a simple Rocky cluster. I mean, it's not like it's that hard. Playing with those and getting them up and running. I've seen some different blogs out there that are talking about get a Kubernetes cluster up and running in 5 minutes. I mean, what have you seen people doing, or what have you done yourself?
Yeah, I've actually been looking into it as well. As far as my son has been showing an interest, as well as learning, some Linux, and obviously, with me working with Rocky Linux, he's heard a lot about it. And even my brother-in-law has been wanting to pick up Linux. So I'm running into the same issue as many are, not finding too many Raspberry Pis out there. But that was the idea, was we were going to, I talked to my brother-in-law, said, hey, what do you think about this project? We'll do it with our kids. He has a son as well, same age. And they're really getting into technology. And so I said, what do you think of this idea that we get some Pis and we'll start learning, building some clusters? And obviously we're going to pick Rocky Linux to run on it. So I've been doing my research and not been successful in getting some pies yet. So that's about as far as I've gotten right now. But I have seen some blog posts out there on how to use Ansible, on how to just run a simple playbook. Somebody's already done the work on how to put Kubernetes onto a cluster of Rocky servers. So it's just basically doing a little bit of Google searching, and you could easily get a playbook, run it, and put it on Rocky that way. But yeah, so I would love to get my hands on some more Rocky pies. And that's definitely, I see a lot of people. I see if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of YouTubers doing the same thing, right? Building clusters for learning. And maybe they're not exactly using Rocky, but Rocky would work just as well as the operating system.
Yeah, it's been easier. Most people have a 3 laying around somewhere, if not several of them, because they were significantly cheaper. And that's what I started off doing. But like I said, I was interested in doing something else. And now that 64-bit is available, or it's been available for Rocky on the Pi, I've just been really interested in playing with that.
Yeah.
Robert, have you been playing yet?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, our fuzzball stack uses a little bit of Kubernetes and a lot of bit of Rocky, right? So, Michael has done many deployments of our own Kubernetes stack that we containerized and have a systematic way to deploy that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was on Raspberry Pi. I tend to be as an old hardware person. I tend to have like 15 old laptops lying around the house that I string up. But so mine looks a little bit not as pretty as yours, probably. Let's just put it that way.
Damn, it's got backup battery built in. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's awesome. So I know earlier, and Michael, you and I were talking about, you've had some people call in and ask questions kind of about installing Kubernetes. How does CIQ feel about it? I mean, there's a lot of options. When you go to install Kubernetes, let's be honest, there's a lot of different things you need to think about. From a CIQ perspective, what are we working on for that?
Yep. So we get a lot of questions, okay, they know that Kubernetes will run on Rocky, but they want to know what's the best practice. Do we have any suggestions? Do we have anything that we would guide them in regards to installing Kubernetes on Rocky? So I've been trying to work on a document in that regards, because there's different ways to install Kubernetes. For all those that are familiar with Kubernetes, there's different paths that you can go on installing and setting it up. So basically just going through the documentation from Kubernetes and digesting and just breaking down what would be the best path using Rocky as an operating system. So I have a document, and I should have probably shared this before, so it was all queued up. So I apologize.
It's all good. So when you were looking at this, though, Michael, you were looking at this from a perspective of if I wanted to run this in production. I mean, stuff we were talking about earlier is obviously kind of a hobbyist playing with it, trying to learn, running it on a Pi or doing it at home. Those installs you're going to go get something from Ansible. It's probably going to be pretty vanilla and not necessarily something you would just want to run and stick in production. But you're looking at this from an operational standpoint of, if I go this route, these are the types of decisions that I need to make, and kind of where we stand from a CIQ perspective on what that would look like.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Most people are starting out, they're just going to go grab the quick starts, or use Rancher or some way to get Kubernetes up and running quick, just to play around with, to learn. And this is more from that perspective. Okay, this is going to go in production. What is the best way to set this up on my production server? And so that's what this document that I'm just doing a quick screen share of here, kind of just, I say right there in the introduction, there's different ways to set up and run Kubernetes. There's different choices. And so that's the purpose of this document that I've been working on, is trying to go through, put down what are the base requirements, and then what are the things that a system admin or a person who's going to deploy this needs to think about in deploying Kubernetes on their Rocky system. So it's still a work in progress, but I've actually been using this for some support cases. Use this document to go through, set up an environment in order to help tackle some support tickets that have come in our way. So I just need to polish it up. I'm not going to show you the whole document because I think I showed you earlier. Down below, it's a little messy. It's just a bunch of notes from me, putting my thoughts together. But we just wanted to share with those watching that we're working on stuff like that here at CIQ, that we field these questions and then we say, oh, you know what, let's see if there's a better way to do this, or what is the best way to do this. And we'll start digging into it and try to figure that out to help everyone else out.
Oh, that's great. I know it's something that's very important to us, is to be able to have a nice streamlined answer for, this is the way that we believe you should be doing it. I know, Robert, you're an advocate of helping people and making sure people are successful. I feel like this is something that, as we go through, being able to produce something like this and share with the community is pretty important and can add value back to the community.
Yeah, and thanks to folks like Michael for doing all this research over time. But we're going to have multiple different information like this that we're going to be putting out from our support team and our lead engineers like Michael. So over time, we're getting asked these questions, and we're going to just have accessible information, whether it's in our learning portals, in our support portals, or generally available across the internet, in blogs, on our website, etc. I think one as important as this in particular, we'll definitely do a video and show people step-by-step guides on how to do it. And again, thanks to our support team that's really putting a lot of effort into pre-thinking and pre-analyzing how to do these things effectively for our customers.
Yeah, I can also imagine that once these documents get created, there will probably be followed by, if not the community, one of us that will put together Ansible playbooks or Puppet manifests to go do this kind of stuff. That not only do you have the document that you can view and follow if you want to, but also be able to do this very quickly and from something that is a known good. So it's exciting. One of the other things that gets brought up, and I know this is something that, Robert, you've talked about quite a bit, is that universal base image. When we're talking about containers, we're talking about Kubernetes. I think it's something that is important for people to understand. What are we talking about when we say UBI or universal base image? What is it? And then why is it important?
Yeah, and I'll let Michael get into the weeds for you, but at the end of the day, we want a freely available way for everybody to build their containers at scale in the ways that's going to suit their applications that they need to run. Whether it's a Kubernetes environment, whether it's for science and on the Fuzzball platform, either way, we want people to have a universal way to make it easy, effective, and they're up and running in an streamlined way. And Mike, I'm more than happy to let you kind of dig in deeper on what that looks like in practice. But we're getting asked for this a lot. It's something that we're putting a lot of effort in from the team, and it's something that we're going to see down the road with a lot of the major distributions of Kubernetes.
Yeah, a lot of people like the UBI because when they think of enterprise Linux operating system, they think of stability, security. It's been proven, and so a lot of people want to start off, using that as their base for whatever the application is that they're going to be providing or distributing. But you also want a base that is not too big in size being distributed around. So with the UBI, that's the nice thing, is that basically it's condensed down. It's a small image, just what's needed. But then it's also an image that can be run anywhere. Hopefully you're running it on Rocky, but you don't necessarily have to run it on Rocky. But you know that the libraries and everything that's in that base image is coming from a source that everyone trusts and relies on for stability. And you can run different platforms. I think we've talked about VMware has their platform. Was it
Tanzu?
Tanzu. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Absolutely.
sorry, VMware. So Tanzu, so they support running UBIs on their platform. So that would be someone that wants to use Rocky as their base image for distributing their app. That's one of the benefits. So that's being worked on actively, as well as to have that available. In fact, I believe we did some testing of one recently. Neil, who works on with us as well as in RESF, he was putting together an image, and we were doing some testing with that.
Very nice. One of the other things, Robert, I know that we talk about Alchemist quite often, is that run safe in Alchemist? Is that something that can also be put into that universal base image? They can make that even more secure?
Yeah, and it's actually an extension beyond just having it into the build process of Rocky. It's having it in a container, having it in provisioning solution, having it in Fuzzball itself. Originally, they designed it to protect applications, right? So that is a natural fit for what we're talking about, and it's definitely something that we're going to have available for customers.
And just going back, I think it was Neil or maybe it was Forrest on one of our previous webcasts actually showed going through the process of using repo as a service and enabling Alchemist, and it was very simple and very straightforward to do. I was shocked. It was cool. Usually when you go through something like that, it seems like it's a whole rebuild and a new install of the operating system, and then it works. But this is truly just run a command and it's there and it's working. So it's exciting that that's going to be available also in something like a container as well. So I want to open this up and I want to let people ask questions if there are any out there. It doesn't just have to be on what we talked about today. I know there are a lot of different things that are going on in the community. I know there's a lot of different questions that I get quite often. We were just trying to have a topic today to kind of spark some interest. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to jump in and start asking those. If not, I'm going to make Michael start telling stories.
Oh no.
Or Robert. Any good stories lately, Robert, while we wait for a question?
So, there's always good stories, right? But, while we got Michael on, it might actually be beneficial to, talk through some of the support initiatives that we're bringing further down the road. Having a way to understand the different packages that different applications need or want. Helping customers potentially with moving from CentOS 7 and preparing to see what they need to go to Rocky 8 and potentially 9 coming soon too. But there's a lot of value from a support team perspective that our leads like Michael want to bring to our customers. And Michael, feel free to maybe express some of your thoughts on that and tell us where you're thinking of taking some of that.
Yeah, sure. So we get a lot of questions. I'm on CentOS 7. We're looking to move to Rocky 8. Does this application run on Rocky? So they're not looking at doing like an in-place migrate. They're just wanting to know, hey, can I install the same application over here on Rocky and just expect it to work? That way I can port over my application and I know it's gonna work over there. So we get a lot of questions. Here's my app, here's the version, does it run on Rocky? So one of the things that we've been discussing internally is we would like to have a way we're still in the brainstorming processes here, but talking about, is there a way where we could go basically like run an assessment tool in a sense, pull out your packages and figure out, through the tool, okay, is this package, put aside the version for now, does this package, is it available at least by that name in their repository for Rocky? If it is there, then we got to look at, okay, is it different versions? We might need to flag that as something to look at. But the idea being that any packages we don't find here, we would like to start noting that here at our support department, so that when we get future questions about that same package, we've already done the research for our customers. So from a support perspective, we want to make it easier to field those questions in order to be able to give a good response. Yes, this will work, but you need to look out for this, look out for that. That way it helps with migration plans, because there's a lot of people out there, they're planning on upgrading to Rocky Linux or changing from CentOS 7 over to Rocky 8. But there's always that unknown. Will it work? So we're trying to come up with ways from a support perspective to help ease that nervousness, to ease the planning when it comes to the migration. If that was the direction you were thinking of, Robert.
Yeah, definitely. And then, a similar mechanism, a similar tool also helps with triage, also helps with understanding validations on different hardware, different capabilities. The support team's looking at multiple different ways to do testing and validation on those hardwares as well. So over time, we're going to have a database full, if you will, of a lot of that information. So it helps people make decisions. We're also going to develop a lot of performance tuning capabilities. We're born out of an HPC company. We're growing beyond that, obviously, into full-on enterprise and hyperscale as well. But at the end of the day, at the core of some of our key folks is performance. And so we're going to have a lot of capabilities around how to tune Rocky, how to get the most out of Rocky, and or variations of Rocky that come to market.
So outside of just customers asking for this, do we have vendors that are coming and asking for this preemptively? So their customers may be asking them to support Rocky. Is that something that we're seeing as well?
Yeah, and we did have a pretty nice partnership announcement, a couple weeks back now with our friends at Google Cloud. Clearly, they're getting asked, but I can tell you that every single cloud partner that we're working with is seeing a very similar uptake. We're talking to multiple different large organizations, whether they're government or commercial, are saying the same thing. So the same conversation is happening over and over, and we're preparing solutions to enable customers faster and faster.
That's great. So Michael, I think you kind of hit on something that seems to come up quite often. It is that migration from CentOS 7. And I know there are a lot of different ways to go about it, but are you seeing a specific trend? Are there people that are doing more, they're trying to go from CentOS 7 to 8 and then to Rocky, or is it truly Wild West, everybody's doing it different and whatever makes sense for them?
I think I think maybe a good majority have already done the transition from CentOS 8 up to Rocky 8.
Mm-hmm.
There's a migration script which has been put to its test. It's working very well for many people. But I think the questions we've been fielding lately have been from CentOS 7 straight to Rocky.
Okay.
I don't recall anyone discussing going to 8 first, CentOS 8 first, then to Rocky. The discussions seem to be more around, I'm on CentOS 7. We know we have a couple more years of support left. So we're starting to think now about transitioning over to Rocky 8. That seems to be
so the SOS tool gets used quite often to see what's on those machines and kind of how does that process work? So they run or execute the SOS report, they give it to us, and then what happens?
Yeah, so there's this really neat tool called SOS Report, and basically gives someone a good snapshot of everything that's on their hardware. On their system, hardware, software, the RPM packages that are installed, storage, anything that you would need to try to figure out, are there any gotchas? So that's one thing, that we've been in, when we are engaged to help with migration, we ask to run that tool first, because with that, we're able to get a good idea of what we're working with, what's on the system, what do we need to look out for. So that's an excellent tool to start with, gathering data and figuring out what is needed to be considered in a migration plan.
And I'm assuming that's also going to feed back into kind of what Robert's talking about, of that central point of, here are the gotchas that we've run across before. So as it comes in, you run the report and immediately, oh, we know that this is going to potentially cause a problem, or we know this is going to work.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I was looking at it just yesterday. There was a discussion around having tools to help us with assessing systems. When someone says, I have a problem, we usually say, okay, give us that report, just so that we can kind of have a good feel without having access directly to their system. That gives us a good way to understand what is there, what is present. But definitely, so when I was looking at the SOS report tool, I was looking at the code a little bit. I haven't dug into it enough, but it looks like it's it's made to be extensible. There's ways to do plugins. So that's an area that would be good to explore, see what we can leverage in this regard, as far as helping with migration. Maybe there's something we could add to it that would definitely give us the ability to direct someone that wants to migrate in a better way. Then right now it's a lot of manual work, but maybe we could leverage that tool to help us. Since we're going to have information about their system, we can immediately, through some scripting, pick up on, hey, we see this here, we got to take care of this before they can migrate.
Very interesting. Thank you. That's fantastic. I don't know, Robert, if you have anything you want to add to that. That seems like a great thing, or a great opportunity to go start adding functionality and kind of helping solve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, just keep in the back of your mind, our support team is made up of folks like Michael, right? So we're not just going to say we only support the OS, we only support an issue or a ticket. We're also here for advice and architecture and helping people be successful. At the end of the day, our goal is to help all of the folks that are using Rocky be successful. We're trying to do that in the community. Like you heard, Michael's in the community helping there, just like tons of volunteers, as well as our customers individually. We are here to help you be successful, whether it's about a migration conversation or architectural conversation that's coming up. So know that that's what our team is trying to do.
That's great. Thanks, Robert. So I think we're actually almost out of time, and I'm trying to see if we have any questions that have come in. It doesn't look like we have yet. So if you guys have questions, please shoot them our way real quick before we end this for the week. If not, we'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll have something else that you can find. Oh, there we go. So does the migration tool work for going from CentOS 7 to Rocky 8, or do you advise I go to CentOS 8 first? And that was kind of what I was asking. I've seen that there is a tool, Michael, that will take you from CentOS 7 to CentOS 8, and I can't remember the name of it. And then you could run the Rocky script, but involved in that, I think there's at least 2 reboots from 7 to 8, and then from CentOS to Rocky. So I don't know if that's something that would make people nervous or not, but
there are some tools we are recommending, as well as even the RESF community, the Rocky community. The consensus seems to be the preference, if it's possible, is to basically just start from scratch as far as your upgrade. Not try to jump major versions from CentOS 7. Even going from CentOS 7 to CentOS 8, there could be a lot of gotchas there. So that's the recommendation, is not even to go from a major version like CentOS 7 straight to CentOS 8 and then go, oh, now I'm going to migrate to Rocky. So not necessarily going to recommend that. There is a tool out there that some have had very good success on. There is an open source tool called Elevate that some have used. I think that's what you're thinking.
That's the one I was Elevate.
Yeah. So that is there. That is an option. But we are still recommending to avoid any potential gotchas. Just if you're on CentOS 7, it's better just to go straight to, do a fresh install of Rocky 8 and then, migrate your apps over, so have a good backup and then, migrate over. So that's still sort of our recommended path as far as that goes. I don't see a need to first go to CentOS 8 and then do the migrate to Rocky. If you're going to go through all that trouble of jumping from CentOS 7 to CentOS 8, you might as well just go straight to Rocky.
Yeah, one of the issues I've had in previous life of moving major version to major version is you don't notice whenever you first finish, it seems like everything was fine. You go through that first patching cycle and things start to explode and you don't know why. And you have to go back and start digging apart, well, what went wrong where? And it's usually stuff that got left over or stuff that didn't get brought over as a part of that migration. So I have always tried to just install new just to save myself some pain later. But again, we've had some customers go through this and do just fine. So whatever your risk tolerance is.
Yep.
Thank you for the question, Tron. Appreciate it. Anyone else? If not, we will see you again next week. Michael, thank you very much for all that you do and for your time today. Robert, as always, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.